These are not merely aged pictures, they are mute testament to a country's most brutal division. Within each portrait, each devastation, lies a narrative of loss, grief, and endurance. This is the war between the states, presented in a light entirely new: the sunken road at Antietam. What began as a simple country path was transformed into a scar of slaughter, where countless lives ended in a mere handful of hours. The horror that occurred here defined one of the most lethal days in American combat history. The price of Gettysburg. The fallen youth remained where they collapsed, their identities permanently impressed upon the Pennsylvania earth. While Gettysburg proved a pivotal victory, its cost was measured in an ocean of lives. Federal cannon at Fredericksburg. These immense weapons roared over the river, yet Union troops faced fierce rebel opposition. The artillery barrage could not shatter the defensive positions, resulting in catastrophic casualties. The fallen at Fort Mahone, Petersburg. These inert figures speak of the grinding siege that suffocated Petersburg. Encircled and starving, the Confederate defense inevitably disintegrated, man by man. A grim reaping, Gettysburg. Timothy O'Sullivan titled this scene, "The Harvest of Death." Land intended for cultivation yielded only the dead, gathered by the grim reaper of conflict. If you appreciate our historical content, we'd be grateful for your support. Please like and subscribe to help us continue sharing these stories. A lone rebel marksman, Devil's Den. This shooter was discovered in isolation amidst the stone, his weapon nearby. A solitary end in a location whose name reflected its infernal nature. Atlanta, Georgia, the Roundhouse, 1865. Previously alive with railway traffic, this structure now stands as wreckage. Sherman's advance made it clear the southern backbone of transport would be destroyed. The Antietam Bridge. This deceptively tranquil crossing became a fatal funnel for Union forces advancing under unwavering fire. They purchased each foot of ground with their own blood. The Fury of Spotsylvania by Tholstrup. This intense tableau captures turmoil suspended in moment. The savage fighting persisted for days, with both armies refusing to concede. A Federal artillery emplacement. Readied for devastation, these guns represent the factory-like nature of death. This war heralded a modern age of industrialized combat. Life within Union Fort Sedgwick, Fort Hell, 1865. Dubbed Fort Hell for undeniable cause, this position suffered endless shelling. The men stationed here coexisted with mortality as a constant companion. Rebel defenses at Fort Mahone, Petersburg, 1865. Primitive and failing, these earthworks were the final Confederate bastion. When Grant's forces finally breached them, the fight had deteriorated into despair. Fallen Confederate trenches at Petersburg, April 1865. Countless remains filled these crude trenches, interred quickly or abandoned to the elements. The siege had devolved into a wholesale slaughter. A deceased rebel soldier, Petersburg, April 1865. This fighter fell with his equipment still upon him, captured in his last instant. He was among the multitude whose identities were lost to time. Commanders of the Horse Artillery Brigade, 1862. These officers directed mobile cannon that revolutionized combat strategies. Their expressions are serene, yet they existed within a world of thunder and violence. The Floating Battery, Charleston Harbor, 1861. This fortified craft initiated the bombardment of Fort Sumter, the conflict's opening salvo. An emblem of rebellion, it signaled the start of 4 protracted years of struggle. The Scorched Landscape of Charleston, South Carolina, 1866. This broken cityscape reveals Charleston in the wake of Sherman's campaign. Grand homes and sanctuaries were left as hollow ruins. Charleston in ashes, 1865. Formerly the crown of the southern states, Charleston now smoldered in defeat. Its capture was both a practical and an emblematic victory. The wreckage of Mill's house and a battle-damaged carriage, 1865. The Mills House once stood for refinement. Now it is a wreck next to a ruined coach, the unmistakable mark of war's brutality. Freed People Hail, African American Troops, Charleston, 1865. Emancipated citizens rejoiced as United States colored troops marched into Charleston. For these onlookers, the soldiers in blue signified that freedom had at last come. The flight from Manassas, Bull Run, 1861. This demolished bridge mirrors the disorder of the retreat following the initial large-scale engagement. Federal forces scattered in fear, bolstering the Confederacy's early hopes. A Confederate commander wounded at Chickamauga. General John Bell Hood was transported from the battlefield, gravely injured. His wounds did not end his service, but they represented a conflict that consumed its own champions. Sherman's sabotage of the rails, 1864. Warped iron, dubbed Sherman's neckties, scatters the earth. His army ensured no easy repair was possible, devastating Southern supply lines. Rebel Defensive Works, Atlanta, 1861. Constructed to protect a crucial Southern hub, these fortifications were ultimately breached. The loss of Atlanta was a devastating strike to the Confederate war effort. Fallen Confederates from Ewell's assault, Alsop Farm, 1864. The pastoral meadows of Alsop Farm were converted into a place of death. These soldiers perished in a hopeless offensive that yielded only sorrow. A mobile telegraph unit, Petersburg, 1864. This wagon transported the era's advanced technology, the telegraph instruments that directed immense forces. Information had become as crucial as artillery. The lookout post on Elk Mountain, Antietam, 1862. From this vantage, Union signalers relayed Army maneuvers and enemy locations. Elevated terrain now offered a command of communications. Grant's War Conference, May 31, 1864. Captured in an image by O'Sullivan, this shows Union command immersed in planning. Grant's resolute demeanor hinted at the unyielding offensives that would follow. The Basin Canal, Richmond's Abandonment and Blaze, April 1865. As rebel forces evacuated Richmond, they ignited fires to obliterate valuable assets. The Confederate capital was engulfed in flames, its demise as rapid as its founding. The Tredegar Iron Works, Richmond, 1865. Previously the industrial core of the Confederacy, Tredegar fell quiet after the surrender. It once produced artillery. Now it stood in defeat. Seized artillery in Richmond. These were formerly tools of conflict, now captured symbols of triumph. The capture of Richmond meant the South had been stripped of its primary shield, the U.S. Army Railroad Bridge, Bull Run. Erected and destroyed repeatedly, this bridge served as a critical supply route for the Union. It exemplifies the war's endless pattern of ruin and renewal. Defensive earthworks at Yorktown, 1862. The ghosts of America's first war lingered on this land. Now it witnessed a fresh conflict with different foes, but with the same fatal conclusion. Encampment of the 150th Pennsylvania Infantry, Belle Plain, 1862. Merely weeks before the Battle of Chancellorsville, these soldiers drilled for the fight to come. For some, these Virginia fields would be their final resting place. The wounded below Mary's Heights, Fredericksburg, 1864. These troops recuperate following another savage encounter. Mary's Heights had already been a site of carnage. This was its sorrowful repetition. If these scenes have touched you, if the gazes, the wreckage, the quiet have resonated with a profound feeling, then assist us in preserving the past. Subscribe to our channel, pass this film along, and allow others to witness the reality that history books sometimes omit. Each subscription, each remark, honors the narratives that continue to reverberate across the ages. Morris Island, the explosion of a Parrott gun, 1863. This enormous cannon burst apart from its own power, a testament that even the machinery of war could not endure the conflict's intensity.